All right, so we've had a conversation about the 13 colonies and the formation of America. Now we're going to back up a little bit and we're going to go to chapter 1 of our book, section 1, which is entitled The Earliest Americans. Okay, so at this point, you should be on page 6, which is chapter 1, section 1, and we're going to talk about the earliest Americans. Okay. At the top of the page, it says why it matters. Tens of thousands of years ago, no human lived in North America or South America. Okay. The section focus question: how did early civilizations develop in Americas? Okay. So the title or the start of this next session is the first Americans. Again, we're on chapter 1, page 6. Here we go. The first Americans. Scientists have various ideas about how people come to America. Some think that people may have come from Asia in large canoes. However, most think that the first humans arrived by land. The land bridge theory. Between 10,000 and 100,000 years ago, much of the world was covered by glaciers or thick sheets of ice. As more and more of the world's water froze, the level of oceans dropped. Areas that once were covered by shallow water became dry land. One of these areas stretched between Siberia and Alaska. It became a bridge of land many miles wide. The area now lies under a narrow waterway called the Bering Strait. That land may have appeared and disappeared several times. However, many scientists believe that people first come to North America between 20,000 and 30,000 years ago. They were hunters, possibly following the coast of Siberia as they hunted prehistoric mammals such as the woolly mammoth. Over thousands of years, hunting bands moved over the land. They eventually spread across North America and South America. So in that section, it discusses the land bridge theory. Now we're going to discuss some other theories. Ready? Read. Other theories. Not everyone agrees with the land bridge theory. Some scientists think that people may first have crossed the Arctic waters by boat and traveled southward along the Pacific coast. This idea is known as the coastal route theory. So there we have introduced another idea, another theory, the coastal route theory. Page 7. Many Native Americans also dispute both the land bridge theory and the coastal route theory. Each group has its own tradition explaining how they settled in lands they did. These traditions appear in their creation stories. Learning to farm. For centuries, early humans could fill most of their needs by hunting. Game animals provided food, furs, clothing, and bones for tools. In time, many of the larger animals began to disappear. Deprived. Let's look at that word. Notice that it's underlined. And to the right of it, it means to take away. So again, starting from the beginning, in time, many of the larger animals began to disappear. Deprived of their main source of food, hunters had to change their way of life. In many places, hunters became gatherers. They traveled from place to place, searching for wild plants and small game. Some 8,000 years ago, gatherers in Mexico began growing food, plants, including squash and lima beans. The discovery of farming transformed life. No longer did families have to wander in search of food. In dry regions, farmers developed methods of irrigation. Irrigation is a method to water crops by channeling water from rivers or streams. Farmers also learned how to raise animals such as cattle, pigs, and llamas. So let's stop right there. Irrigation, one of our vocabulary words. It is a method to water crops by channeling water from rivers or streams. Okay, so let's go back to the last paragraph. With a more dependable food supply, the population grew more rapidly. Once Native Americans produced surplus or extra food they added with others. Some farming communities grew into cities. The cities became centers for government and religious life. In that paragraph, we had another vocabulary word, surplus, which is to mean extra food. Turn to page 8. In this section, we're going to discuss 3 civilizations. Okay, 3 civilizations. With the development of cities came beginnings of civilization. A civilization is an advanced culture in which people have developed cities, science, and industries. Over the centuries, several civilizations rose and declined in the Americas. The largest were the civilizations of Mayas, the Aztecs, and the Incas. So we've announced 3 civilizations. The 3 civilizations, again, are the Mayas, the Aztecs, and the Incas. Next section. Mayas between AD 250 and AD 900. The Mayas built cities in what is now Mexico and Central America. These splendid cities contain large public plazas lined with pyramids, temples. The Mayas. Between AD 250 and AD 900, the Mayas built cities in what is now Mexico and Central America. These splendid cities contain large public plazas lined with pyramids, temples, ball courts, and palaces. The Mayas did more, however. They developed arts, a system of government, and a written language. They also observed the stars. From their study of the heavens, they created the most accurate calendar known until modern times. They also carved stories of their past and their gods into stones of their buildings. Around AD 900, the Mayas began to abandon their cities. Why this happened remains a mystery. Disease or overpopulation may have caused a decline. Although the Mayan civilization is gone, the Mayan language still forms the root of more than 20 languages of Central America. The Aztecs. Aztecs, as Mayan civilization declined, a new civilization was on the rise. The Aztecs built a great capital city, the Tenochtitlan. Use the abbreviation part to pronounce the word Tenochtitlan on the site of present-day Mexico City. It was built on a series of islands in a large lake. The city was connected to the mainland by stone roads. In many parts of Tunish. All right, let's stop right there. Now, there's a word here that I can't pronounce. So if you're at home, you use the computer and you can look this word up and it'll give you an audio recording on how to pronounce the word. So let's listen to this.
Tenochtitlan.
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 Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan. This is a way to help you with pronouncing words. How you can use your electronic device, the internet, Google, to pronounce words you don't understand. Okay, so let me back up to that first sentence. The Tenochtitlan farmers raised crops on floating platforms. More than 200,000 people resided in Tenochtitlan at its height, making it perhaps the largest city in the world at the time. The center of the city was a sacred place with dozens of temples honored by the Aztec gods. This was appropriate because religion dominated Aztec life. To the Aztecs, prosperity depended on the goodwill of the gods. Like a number of other ancient peoples, the Aztecs practiced human sacrifice as an offering to their gods. During the 1400s, Aztec armies brought half of modern-day Mexico under their control. The Aztecs proved to be effective but harsh rulers, conquered tribes, and were forced to send treasure, food, and prisoners to the Aztec capital. The Aztecs forced the people they conquered to pay high taxes. Resentful subjects would eventually turn on Aztecs when the empire most needed allies. Okay, so it gives you background about how tough and strict the Aztecs community was. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Let's review our vocabulary. A civilization is an advanced culture in which people have developed cities, science, and industries. That is at the top of page 8. Okay. Now in the text, we have another word called reside, which means to live, to make one's home in. Most of you reside in Claremore, Oklahoma. Okay. So that's where you live, have your home, so on and so forth. It's very important that we pick up on this vocabulary as we read. Okay. The final civilization is the Incas. Back to the text, page 9, about the middle of the page. In the 1400s, the largest empire was not in Europe or Asia. It was in South Africa. That sounds like a test question. Okay. The largest empire was not in Europe or Asia. It was in South America. I said Africa previously, excuse me. Let me reread. In the 1400s, the largest empire was not in Europe or Asia. It was in South America. Okay. Going forward, the vast empire of the Inca stretched down the coast of South America along the Andes across the Atacama Desert and reached the fringes of the Amazon rainforest. At the center of the empire was the Inca capital, Cuzco. Cuzco was linked to other cities and towns by a great network of roads. A Spaniard who traveled the main Inca highway called it the finest road to be seen in the world. The Incas constructed buildings of huge stones carefully shaped to fit together. Their engineers built walls to hold soil in their fields, canals to carry water, and bridges over deep canyons. The Incas produced fine weaving and metalwork. The Inca rulers wore gold and silver jewelry, and their places contained plates of gold. Okay, so let's kind of review the chapter, or the section rather. We talk about the earliest Americans. Okay, we have several theories about how the American continent started. We have the land bridge theory. We have the coastal route theory. Okay, it talks about how they began to farm using irrigation to run water to crops, etc., etc., etc. We also discussed 3 civilizations, which is the Mayas, the Aztecs, and the Incas. We learned how vicious and rule the Aztecs were, and we learned how the largest empire was not in Europe or Asia, it was in South America, and that was the Incas. Okay. Below at the bottom on page 9 are several questions that we will review and consider possible answers to. Okay. Question 1, for example, name one skill that people had to learn in order to grow crops. Say it again. Name one skill that people had to learn in order to grow crops. That's part A of section 1. Part B is, what benefits could farmers get from learning to raise animals? What benefits could farmers get from learning to raise animals? Question number 2, what is civilization? That was one of our key vocabulary words. That's part A of question 2. Part B says, how did the Mayas and the Aztecs fit the definition? What did they do to fit the definition of civilization? Okay, that's the question you're answering. Number 3, preview before reading. Okay, preview section 2, read the headings, study its images and captions, and review the questions. Tell what you think about section 2 will be about. Use the headings to identify the text organization. How can you use this information to plan your readings? Okay. And we go on, it talks about key terms, which leads us to question 4. How did the growth of glaciers affect water levels in the ocean. Okay, the way you would find that is you would turn back to the text where it talks about glaciers and read till you find your answers. Okay. Number 5, why was learning about irrigation important to farmers? Again, you would turn back to the section and find where it talks about, where it mentions the word irrigation, and apply how that definition would help the farmers. Okay. Number 6, what are the advantages of having a surplus of crops? We talked about a surplus. Go back to the text and look at what the word surplus means, and then label some advantages of what a surplus would be to have. Okay, so number 6 again, what are the advantages of having a surplus of crops? Okay, we won't worry about number 7, but I think that is a good enough start for right now. 1 through 6 is a good enough start to review and answer questions in relates to section 1, chapter 1, pages 6 through 9.